Hello and welcome to the Employee Wellbeing Services online sleep session. I will be taking you through some sleep information and resources today. Please pause the video as you go on and go through the video at your own pace. In today's session, we will be covering an introduction to sleep firstly, including talking about the function of sleep and the sleep cycle, as well as the effects of a lack of sleep. We will then move into thinking about ways of improving our sleep, such as covering aspects of calming the body, calming the mind, and sleep hygiene. So what actually is the function of sleep? Sleep is essential to humans, just like air, water, and food. It recharges our batteries and makes it easier to cope with the day's stresses. It also helps our minds and bodies to develop, as well as generally boosting our well-being. It's also key for our general physical health, helping us to restore our energy and repair from any injuries or illnesses, as well as helping us to improve our psychological well-being and mood, our concentration, memory, work performance, and generally how we get along with other people. This slide shows the sleep cycle that we go through, with our sleep being made up of 5 different stages. When we first fall asleep, we go into stage 1 sleep, which is a very light sleep. Next, as you go into stage 2 and 3, our sleep gets deeper. By stage 4, you are in a very deep sleep, also known as delta sleep. And finally, you go into 5th stage, which is also called rapid eye movement Rem sleep, which is where most of our dreams occur. These different stages of sleep in the sleep cycle are thought to help us in different ways. Deep sleep, which is in stages 3 and 4, is thought to be involved with restoring the body and physical energy, so helping our bodies to recover. Whereas REM sleep is thought to be most important for restoring our mental functions such as memory and concentration, so helping our minds to recover. So a lack of REM and deep sleep can badly affect us during the day. This slide shows some of the effects a lack of sleep can have on us, ranging from mood changes, feeling more fatigued than usual, difficulty concentrating or having memory problems, leading us to feel quite irritable and also quite low, having impaired judgment and reaction times, more conflict in relationships, worry about not sleeping, and also, in extreme circumstances, hallucinations. So how much sleep is actually normal? People can often become quite distressed when they feel they're not getting a good night's sleep, but it's also important to remember that different people need different amounts of sleep, and some people can function quite well and not be tired during the day with just 3 to 4 hours sleep, and then others can need more than this. On average, we say that about 6 to 8 hours sleep is about an average amount that an adult will sleep. However, most people establish a pattern that is normal for them in their early adult life. And as you become older, it's normal to actually sleep less. So people in their 70s usually need less than 6 hours sleep per night. So it's important to note that everyone is different, and what is important for you is what is enough sleep for you to make you feel refreshed and not sleepy during the daytime, and what amount is individual to you as a person. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the function of sleep and why sleep is so important, as well as the different stages of sleep and the effects of a lack of sleep. But now let's move on to thinking about how to actually improve our sleep. And firstly, thinking about some general tips that can be important to consider when trying to help our sleep. So firstly, it's really important to think about our bedroom. And so when we're thinking about our bedroom, thinking about the temperature of our room and the temperature of our bed. So ideally trying to get a Goldilocks rule, so not too hot or not too cold. Also making sure that our bed and our mattress is comfortable. So really trying to invest in our bed where possible. Also taking into consideration the light in our room. So making sure that the room is dark enough. Trying to avoid bright lights before bed. And if you really must check your phone, trying to dim the light as much as you can. Also thinking about the impact of noise. So if you can't stop the noise from outside your house, trying to use earplugs. Another thing to consider is our alcohol use. So trying to not have alcohol more than 4 to 6 hours before bed, as this can impact on our quality of our sleep, reducing our deep sleep and our Rem sleep. Another factor that can be important is trying not to clock watch, as tempting as it might be, as many people who struggle to sleep tend to watch the clock too much and then that can be on their mind. And then finally, thinking about having a bath before bed can also be quite useful. So having that sort of soothing time, 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, can be useful. The first technique that we're going to talk about in terms of improving our sleep via calming the mind is something called worry time. So as humans, we can often find ourselves laying in bed worrying about our problems, and this feeling of tension and arousal, which is normal when we worry, that accompanies these thoughts makes it more difficult to sleep. So a strategy that can be helpful to deal with this problem is to try and postpone our worries to a particular worry period. The aim of setting a worry time is that you are learning not to react to worrying thoughts. You are taking control over the usual urge to worry and are able to bring your mind back to the present moment. However, it's important to note that this technique does take time and practice. So when trying to utilise this worry time technique, what we need to do is firstly notice our worries during the day. So notice our worries and firstly think to ourselves, okay, is this something that I can do something about now? Is this in my control now? If there is something that you need to do that you can change in that moment, so for example, I really need to put the bins out today, then yes, do it straight away, if possible. And then thinking, okay, is this something not in my control? And if it is something that's not in your control or that you can't do anything about in that exact moment, saying, okay, I'm going to postpone this to my worry time. So almost telling yourself, catch you later. And this technique can be used in the morning, sort of for any worries that come up for you. And it can also be used before bed. So when you have those worries on your mind before bed, trying to tell yourself, okay, I'll come back to this after a good night's sleep during my worry time when I'm in a better time to think about it. And then the idea is that you then try and redirect your focus back to the present moment and let go of the worry until the worry period has arrived. Okay, so next, during your worry period, which is normally a 10 to 15 minute time that you allocate yourself, so for example, it might be 6 p.m. in the lounge, where you're in a comfortable space and free from distractions. This is where you then think about the worries that you've previously noted down. If the worries are no longer bothering you, then no further action is required. But you can ask yourself questions like, can I do anything about this today? Will this matter in a week, a month, a year? And just really try to put things into perspective. And then again, after that worry time has passed, we then try and bring our attention back to the present moment. And it should be noted again that this technique takes lots of practice and patience, and there'll be resources at the end of the presentation today where you can utilise this technique and get a bit more information. Sleep problems may begin due to a range of factors, including stress or pain. However, usually there are different factors that keep this problem going, and our negative thoughts about sleep are one key factor that can really maintain our sleep problems, as shown in this vicious cycle of poor sleep or insomnia. So at the top of this diagram, we have initial poor sleep due to stress, pain, or another reason, which then leads to those automatic negative thoughts. So things like, I will not be able to cope if I don't have 8 hours sleep. I'm going to feel terrible tomorrow. I'm going to perform badly at work. So lots of those negative thoughts that we can have. That can then impact how we feel physically and emotionally. So we might feel more anxious and more worried about not being able to sleep. We might feel more apprehensive and we might feel more tense as well, which then has another impact on our sleep. This can also impact on how we behave, so changes in the habits intended to improve our sleep, which in fact can make things worse, such as more time napping or more time spent in bed, which can again lead to that continued poor sleep and increased focus on how our poor sleep is impacting on our daytime functioning, and then back to our negative thoughts, and then round and round and round. So this cycle can just keep going and going. So this diagram shows that our negative thoughts about getting to sleep, the quality of sleep, and the consequences of poor sleep can actually increase the chances of having poor sleep. So it's almost as though these negative thoughts can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and they can get in the way of returning to a regular good sleep. Okay, so thinking about that vicious cycle of poor sleep and how our thoughts can be one maintaining factor in keeping that poor sleep going, let's talk about a method that can be helpful in trying to challenge our negative thoughts about sleep. So this method is called a thought record, or it's also called a thought diary. And this is a really useful way of just noticing and identifying our negative thoughts and feelings and behaviours associated with those thoughts, and then trying to challenge them with more neutral, balanced ways of thinking. So we can have all sorts of negative thoughts about sleep, such as assuming the worst about the meaning of sleep, unrealistic expectations, and also unhelpful thinking styles. So for example, we can catastrophize, we can have black and white thinking, and we can also have selective attention, which can contribute to those maintaining sleep problems. So for example, people with sleep problems tend to remember the times they slept poorly, but forget the times they had good sleep, or will notice every little body sensation when trying to get to sleep. People with insomnia also tend to classify a good night's sleep as either great or terrible, without leaving room for okay and good enough. And so this method can just help to stop, pause, and try and notice, okay, am I catastrophizing how I'm sleeping? Can I think about this in a different way? And then noticing how that then makes you feel and behave in turn. So in terms of actually using a thought record going forward, we're going to attach some resources at the final slide of this presentation, which will take you to some techniques that can be helpful in terms of challenging our thoughts, and they go through step by step how to go through this process, and there's lots of different thought records that you can use, but generally it's about stopping, pausing and reflecting on the thoughts that you had in that situation, and then the impact that had on how you felt, and then trying to challenge it and look at things in a more balanced way where possible, and then noting down again how that made you feel as a result of reflecting on your thoughts, and just trying to notice if you can try and challenge your thinking to a more balanced, neutral way. Okay, so moving on to how we can improve our sleep. Calming the body can also have a really key impact on how we feel and in turn on our sleep. So exercise can be helpful, but try not to do this for more than a few hours before bed. So early evening is perfect, as otherwise this can really activate us and make us awake. Caffeine, So really thinking about how much caffeine we're having and trying to cut it out as much as possible from late afternoon onwards. Eating right, so having a healthy, balanced diet will help you to sleep well, and timing is also important. So, some people find that a very empty stomach at bedtime is distracting, so it can be helpful to have a light snack, but a heavy meal can also then interrupt our sleep. So, trying to get that balance. And then also thinking about some relaxation before bed to really relax us. So things like breathing techniques, belly breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, guided meditation, and mindfulness, which again will attach at the end of this presentation. And also thinking about doing something self-soothing, so maybe reading a book, colouring, listening to nice music, having a bath, or having a warm decaffeinated drink. So really thinking about your bedtime routine and how you switch off and how you self-soothe. Another thing to consider when thinking about improving our sleep is our sleep hygiene and retraining our sleep. So if we think of a good sleeper, their associations with their bed are all good. So things like, this is the place where I get to sleep, where I feel safe, comfy, relaxed and content. I'll wake up feeling refreshed and feeling that I've recharged my batteries. Whereas if you think of a poor sleeper, they associate their bed with not sleeping. So this is the place where I don't get to sleep, where I toss and turn, where I feel stressed, angry and frustrated, and this is the place where I never get a decent rest. So retraining your sleep is all about changing your associations with your bed. Okay, so thinking about the steps of sleep hygiene and how we go about retraining our sleep, this is some key steps to think about when trying to do that. So the first thing is really trying to get regular. So to go to bed and get up at more or less the same time every day, as this regular rhythm will make you feel better and will give your body something to work from. Next, the bed is for sleeping. So try not to use your bed for anything other than sleep and intimacy, so your body comes to associate your bed with sleep. Next, sleep when sleepy. So only try to sleep when you actually feel tired or sleepy, rather than trying to spend too much time in bed awake. And again, thinking about getting up and trying again. So if you haven't been able to get to sleep for about 20 minutes, get up and do something calming or boring until you feel sleepy, and then return to bed and try again, and repeat this step again and again and again if you have to. So you have 20 minutes each time to get to sleep, and if you don't, it's back to the living room. And this step can be quite frustrating, but it's really important to keep trying to persevere as much as you can. Another sleep hygiene step is no naps. So you may want to nap during the day to try and catch up on that lost sleep, but don't do it. Save that sleep for bedtime. Again, thinking about getting up early each morning, so get up no later than 8:30, set the alarm, and as soon as it goes off, get up and out of your bedroom. Also thinking about your sleep rituals, so you can develop your own rituals or things to remind your body that it's time to sleep. So some people find it useful to do relaxing stretches or breathing exercises, or to sit calmly with a cup of caffeine-free tea. And then finally, thinking about the right place. So it has to be somewhere that you feel calm, that's quiet and comfortable for sleeping. A cooler room with enough blankets to stay warm is best, and making sure that you have curtains or an eye mask to block out that morning light, and earplugs if there is noise outside your room. A sleep diary can be a really useful way of making sure that you have all the right facts about your sleep rather than making assumptions. A sleep diary can also help you to notice any patterns when you do have bad sleep. So, for example, any medication, how much caffeine you had that day. So, it can really help you to increase your self awareness about your own sleep. And it can be helpful just to check in with yourself and notice how much you are sleeping, because sometimes it can also show you that you're sleeping more than you think as well. so it can be a really useful activity to do. And this sleep diary will be attached on the final slides of today's session.